Hi, good morning. So my name is Clare Johnston, and I'm the founder and co-CEO of the Up Group. We are a digitally focused executive search and networking business. And Marco has asked me to talk for about 10 minutes, I believe, on some of the key themes that we've experienced this year in talent and hiring. I definitely cannot do that big topic justice in 10 minutes, but I'm going to try and pull out a few themes that come to mind. So we, the Up Group, occupy a very privileged position in the digital ecosystem in that we get to work every day with really exciting, innovative companies and globally. And we focus on placing chairmen, non-exec directors, CEOs, and the respective functional sort of VPs across the board, whether product, marketing, technology, finance, etc. In fact, this year, we decided to launch the first ever Digital Masters Awards to celebrate the finest UK digital talent. It went so well, or so I'm told, that we've decided to open it up to Europe. So in 2015, we will have a Europe-wide celebration of digital talent. And I think that speaks volumes for where we're at as an industry. So it's been a really buoyant, active year. I'm pleased to say we're all working in the right space, huge amounts of opportunity, so many fabulous companies emerging. But what it's really meant is, and this is unsurprising, is that huge demand for talent, and talent remains a very scarce resource. Some of our clients, too many to name, I'll whiz through this. So, the theme, the war for talent continues and has only heightened. The implications of the lack of talent out in the market are such that there's been a real increase in salary inflation. The chief execs in the audience won't like to hear what I'm about to say, but when we as the Up Group conducted a salary survey earlier this year, where we polled thousands of people, received over 1,000 responses, which I'm told is pretty good for a salary of this sort of kind, it basically showed that salaries in the digital space have increased by 9%. Compared to 2.5% across the wider economy. So we're definitely working in the right space. What we also saw was that technology, product, and marketing salaries have got very, very high. In some cases, eye-wateringly so. None of my clients ever believe me when I say that. They think I'm pushing up my fees, but it is genuine. But what was interesting is it's not just those core functions that you might expect. It's actually some of the support functions, or that's as often referred to, support functions of finance, HR, and operations. They're also getting pretty high. We've seen this new trend emerge this year. More and more traditional companies are now going through digital transformation. These companies are actually offering high salaries and attracting some really strong talent. So a new dynamics come to play. It's not just the VC-backed, PE-backed high-growth companies that are trying to hire this talent. It's also the traditional companies. The inflation, I think, in terms of salary would be even greater if not for the increased propensity of execs to move from public to private companies. We've definitely seen that trend really heighten. So, I think it's pretty fair to say that there are gaps in Europe's talent pool. The actual pool remains pretty small overall in terms of senior execs who have operated at scale across core functions such as technology, product, and marketing. This has meant that we've got a couple of different options from trying to tackle this problem. We have to find great people build great companies, and so what do? We've seen that three sort of solutions have been emerging. One, you accept that you hire local functional experts, those who have the kind of domain or technical expertise, but who perhaps don't have the experience of leadership at scale. Another option is to really focus on the leadership aspect, really seek out those individuals who've managed large teams, but perhaps have not got the deep functional domain expertise. And the third is simply hire from the US. It's probably something you've heard mentioned many times, and it's definitely something that we've been doing more and more of as the Up Group, is really reaching out to the execs in the US where there's more experience of operating at scale and trying to attract them to join the UK and European digital ecosystem. So, effective hiring in 2014, I think the key theme has been about managing these trade-offs. So startups and growth companies are actually starting to think more deeply about people and culture. We've really noticed at the Up Group that some of the well-funded, high-growth digital businesses here, who from the get-go aspire to be big global titans, have really been thinking about the importance of hiring senior HR talent from the early stages. So the titles of Chief People Officer, VP Talent, etc., are becoming more commonplace. And it's a conversation that I'm certainly having with both investors and chief execs earlier. These businesses realize that actually thinking about culture and values, organizational design, executive coaching, management training, etc., they really shouldn't be afterthoughts. HR should be seen as a key strategic asset in the business. A great people strategy should support every business strategy. HR has no longer been seen as the admin function. Something else we've noticed is about titling. So businesses are actually being more measured and thoughtful about the use of titles, particularly CXO titles, at an earlier stage. Companies who, as a 5 or 10 or 20-person team, hire somebody with circa 5 years of experience to lead their technology team and call them a CTO, may experience issues as that business scales. Where does that person go when simply the business has scaled, has complexity, the tech team is now 100 people? It's very difficult to then bring in those senior executives without forcing out earlier members of the team. So one word of sort of caution that we would recommend is to really be thoughtful about whether you're bringing in a head of technology, a technology director, and not a CTO from the early days. Titles certainly are being rationed in line with organizational plans. So a regional point, Berlin, the Nordics, and London are certainly pulling away. The gravitational force of London, Berlin, and the Nordics is really apparent. The downside for London is, of course, we're now competing with other really key areas in Europe for the scarce resource of talent. But it's been fantastic to see that these hubs are emerging. There's some fantastic businesses coming out across the board. The trend for US growth companies like Etsy, Airbnb, Pinterest, they're starting to hire senior execs into London and seeing that as their regional HQ. And these roles really do have legs. These businesses are moving so quickly. The complexity that is associated with that level of growth means that you need somebody with a lot of experience. So we're actually putting in some very senior execs to run these businesses. And actually, these businesses are being seen as very, very attractive. Joining a well-financed US HQ business, but being that person to lead its growth internationally is seen as an attractive option. And finally, we felt it would be remiss of us not to talk about the consumer fintech scene. We at the Up Group have done a huge amount of work in this space this year. And I think everyone in the room can relate to the fact that there really has been an explosion in the consumer finance sector. All metrics are trending strongly upwards, whether user adoption, funding, and senior hiring. What's really struck us about these businesses, though, is the level of confidence and ambition that they have for the early stage. These fintech businesses believe from the get-go they can disrupt huge, archaic, traditional sectors and build huge businesses. They're not looking to build local businesses. And what that, again, means is that there's a huge demand coming out of this space for senior executive talent. People who actually were not traditionally attracted to work in the financial services per se, are recognizing that this sector, above all others at the moment, is attracting huge amounts of finance, and actually the ability to make an impact and scale a global company like this is few and far between. So it's becoming an increasingly attractive option to be part of the London scene within fintech, which actually in some instances you could argue is sort of leading the way over the US. I can see the clock says I'm out of time, so I hope that's highlighted some of the key themes. Enjoy NOAH, and thanks for listening.